Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I don't expect a big crowd this morning. It is only 4:26 a.m. and I'm having my first cup of coffee, but I figure we would go ahead and jump into this, so just bear with me just for a moment. Okay, so we have Eric Paul Ackridge. He was a missing person, but foul play suspected. Now, Eric Paul Ackridge was a simple man. He often spent his days working, fishing, watching sports, and spending time with his close knit family. Tragedy struck the Ackridge family on March 3rd, 2021, when Paul disappeared without a trace. Growing up, I couldn't go anywhere without someone asking me how Paul is doing or what he's been up to these days. It's the same thing, except the question is, are there any updates on Paul? This was all stated by his sister, Selena Julius. Now, Paul went missing after leaving his sister's house in Keystone Heights, Florida, on May 3rd, 2021. The 50-year-old was last seen. Oh, let me make sure that I am on the screen, and I am. Okay, just making sure. Paul went missing after leaving his sister's house in Keystone Heights, Florida, on May 3rd, 2021. The 50-year-old was last seen on the surveillance footage leaving his sister's home after dropping off his parents' car. He was wearing a bucket hat with his face seemingly covered. Paul's family spoke to him every day. His sister, Mary Eckridge, says her brother Paul was compassionate, kind, and would never say no to any requests for help, even from strangers. It was considered abnormal for Paul not to reach out to his siblings nor to his parents for days on end, as they talked every day. Although his family often awaited his calls, they knew something was wrong after Paul's Facebook status went offline. 4 years later, Paul has still not been found. Paul grew up in Keystone Heights, Florida, with his three sisters, Valerie, Mary, and his younger sister, Selena. Paul was the favorite. He was the only boy in the family. Sports played a significant role in Paul's upbringing, and he was the MVP on many teams. Paul played baseball, basketball, and occasionally football. Though a jack of all trades, Paul's heart always led him back to baseball. He was a star baseball player in his high school days, playing both shortstop and pitcher. Paul is described by his family as being extremely athletic. After graduating from high school in 1988, Paul's passion for the game of baseball landed him a spot on the Santa Fe Community College baseball team. Before transferring there, or after transferring to University of Florida for 2 years, was used to having an ample playtime on the field, but after transferring to the University of Florida, he became a relief pitcher and minimal playing time. After his first season, Paul transferred to Warner Southern, a smaller university, to play baseball and finish out his college career. Now, family is very important to the Ackridges. It's not the only thing that matters, but it's the most. I used to follow him everywhere when we were younger, says Selena. We were like twins. We were born 15 months apart. Though being so close in age, we shared a special bond. Paul was best friends with his immediate family. He never missed a family event. We were always fishing together, always doing something together. He was very active in all of our lives. Every holiday he was around, he never missed a holiday ever. Paul spent a lot of his childhood freshwater fishing with his dad. Our dad had a love for fishing, and Paul was in the shadow every time they had a chance to go. Now, this was all stated by his sister, Valerie. This was a hobby Paul took with him very well into his adulthood. He often competed in fishing. They would do tournaments at Santa Fe Lake in Gainesville every Wednesday night, a tradition that his sister Valerie said only yielded a prize for the biggest fish of the day. Now, this always brought a smile to our faces because he knew and we all knew that he loved it. He was so competitive. These tournaments brought joy to Paul's life and gave him something to look forward to weekly. Has always been the best at whatever he would participate in. But unfortunately, all of these things in the end were not enough to stop his drastic turn into drug abuse. Paul's drug use began in college and slowly became an issue throughout the years, which eventually landed him in trouble with the law. Paul's family often encouraged him to do the right thing and turn himself, but to no avail. After years of drug use, Paul was diagnosed with pulmonary hypertension after being hospitalized. Now, 3 days before his disappearance, Paul called his sister Selena with a chilling message. Selena, they're going to get me. When they get me, you're not going to have me anymore. I don't know what they'll do to me, but they will dispose of me. They have more resources and money than the police. Now, this was all told to his sister. Now, he didn't want her to go to call the police at all. It's just not what he wanted to do. But he had asked his sister that he didn't want her to live the rest of her life not knowing what had happened to him. When he was younger, when his younger sister asked who he was referring to, Paul couldn't give an answer. On the day he went missing, Paul spent the morning working on his car. After spending a couple of hours on that project, he went to his parents' nearby home to pick up their car to drive to Palaca for car parts. Now, Paul returned from his sister's home, where he was last seen on surveillance at 5:10 p.m. In the surveillance footage, Paul is seen wearing a hat with his face covered as he drops off his parents' car. That was the last time anyone saw or heard from Paul. Police suspect Paul was picked up by someone and taken somewhere with something possibly happening to him. Now, it's been 4 years since that family even got to see Paul. If he were here to show up today, I would be thrilled, she says. I would just hug him and let him know how much he is loved and missed. I would feel complete again. Now, this all comes from his mom, Denise Eckridge. Since Paul's disappearance, his family has been unable to fully grieve due to the circumstances surrounding his disappearance. You wonder every day, every hour, what happened to Paul, says Denise. Paul told his sister Selena before his disappearance that he felt he was being dealt the wrong hand from both sides. Now, someone knows something, and that someone needs to come forward with where Paul is. In the years following his disappearance, Paul's father, his lifelong best friend, often sits by the window awaiting for his son's return. Selena says her father died of a broken heart one day after Paul's 51st birthday. Anyone with information concerning Eric Paul Eckridge's disappearance is asked to call the Clay County Sheriff's Office at 904-264-6512. And to remain anonymous and possibly be eligible for a reward, please call First Coast Crime Stoppers at 1-866-845-TIPS. Oh my goodness, isn't that just awful? That is horrible. Do we have any questions in chat from anyone? Good morning, Rick. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you guys joining so early. Next, we have David Lewis. Sorry, you'll hear me kind of pause in between as I drink my coffee. This is David Lewis. Now, May 26, 2025, this article was put out by Project Cold Case. And if you are not familiar with them, please, they are an amazing group. And they do this from their hearts. And I'm sorry if that rattled that microphone. They do this from their heart, and they put out amazing information. But let's go ahead and get back to David Lewis. David Lewis is an unsolved homicide victim, September 4th, 2008, from Ashland, Oregon. This story is part of a collaborative project between Project Cold Case and the University of North Florida's Applied Journalism class. And it is as states. David Lewis' nickname was Fishhook, and he was proud of it. No matter where he was, he would always reel in a fish, says his sister Linda. Now known as the guy who would help anyone and who could do anything, Lewis is sorely missed by his Oregon community. He died September 4th, 2008, in his Oregon cabin. The cabin had been set on fire, and the police later determined that David had been killed before the arson. The case has never been solved. David Lewis was a loving man with kindness, charisma, and a really friendly nature that is deeply missed. The burned out cabin where his body was found was 5 miles away from another cabin that had also been set on fire, which drew firefighters to that location. Police reports revealed that the body suffered injuries before the fire. His sister, Linda Miller Lewis, was the first family member who learned of his death. Prior to being informed of her brother's passing, she felt a sense of unease, a random sense of danger. Linda found out about David's death through a news source online, describing a cabin fire that had revealed the body of a dead man. Linda's husband, Greg Miller, was the first to reach out to the fire marshal out of concern that the unidentified body might just be his brother in law. For the body to be identified, DNA samples had to be drawn from both Linda and David's eldest son, Bo. David's extended family has often traveled to Alaska and Oregon in hopes that the case could even see the slightest progress. Hey, Frank, thank you for joining. David's extended family has often traveled to Alaska and Oregon in hopes that the case would even see the slightest progress. No arrest has been made on this case at all. It also feels unsolvable as it keeps coming to dead ends. David's death impacted not just his sister Linda, but the rest of his siblings and large extended family. He left behind his three sons, Bo, Casey, and Skylar. His remaining family members have found comfort in making each other an anniversary of David's death. Hi, Aurora. Thank you for joining. His cabin was near Lake Hyatt, Oregon, and he built his own boat for use for fishing. It's how Linda and others like to remember him, free spirited and kind. Taking in the scenery, looking for fish. He's missed. They're very sad, but he will always be remembered. If you have any information about this unsolved homicide of David Lewis, please contact the Jackson County Cold Case Team at 541-774-6800, and you can remain anonymous. There's also a tip line at 541-774-8333. There's been several rewards offered throughout the years. Contact the Jackson County Sheriff's Office to find out the current reward amount. Oh my goodness, that is so heartbreaking. That's terrible. Let me look over at chat. Yes, I sleep sometimes, Frank, sometimes. I am having my morning coffee, so we'll see if that gives me a little jolt. Okay, so next we have Timothy Thomas Jr. Now, Timothy Thomas Jr. was an outgoing person, and he was often described as the life of the party. Timmy was my oldest son, the light of my eyes, and as soon as he was born, said his mother. Now, Robin Clemens would say, "Oh Lord, that was my pride and joy whenever he was born. When I laid my eyes on my son, it just did something to me. My son was just so special to me," says Clemens. That light would be put out too soon and unexpectedly. Timothy Thomas Jr. was shot to death at the corner of Pullman Avenue on West 9th Street in Jacksonville, Florida. But that was early in the morning of September 29th, 2021. He was only 31 years old. His murder still has not been solved. He was staying the night at his grandmother's house. He just went out quickly but never returned home. Now, she said she received a call from his grandmother at 6 a.m. asking where Timothy was. She turned on the news and saw a story about a murder involving a man in his late 20s or early 30s. All I thought of was, "Oh no, I know that is not my child," Clemens said, but as soon as she learned from the police, it actually was. His body had been found at the intersection of Pullman Avenue and West 9th Street in Jacksonville historic Dirkville neighborhood, an area valued for its historical sites and deep ties to African American heritage. That night, though, Clemens only knew it was her son's final resting place. Timothy was born on October 1st, 1989. He was an AB honor roll student growing up. He loved playing basketball and football. He was known for hugging everyone he knew just as soon as he would see them. And at the time of his death, he was a father of four, three daughters, one son. All of his kids have been affected deeply by his passing, but his son is the one that has been the most affected. And he lost that connection to his father at such a young age. He still asks questions. Why has this happened? Every day he is reminded of his father. Clemens said many loved ones remember him as the hype man of the family. She called him the missing piece from her family. It crushes me that I can't hear my son's voice anymore or get a hug or hear I love you from him. Timothy faced numerous challenges growing up, particularly after the death of his father, Timothy Thomas Sr., and stepfather Jerry Clemens. His father's imprisonment at the age of 10 deeply affected him too, and shortly after his father was imprisoned, he was killed. Losing his stepfather in a similar manner nearly triggered a breakdown. The consecutive losses took a toll on him. Clemens maintains a memorial of the pictures on her wall and on her staircase, finding solace in memories. She holds onto the Facebook post written by Timothy 4 years before his death. Going up my stairs, there's nothing but my son's pictures because that's my child. This brings her and the family peace and hopes that one day her son's murder will be solved. 4 years before he died, Timmy, as his mother called him, wrote a Facebook post about his mother, verbalizing to her their strong bond as it reads, "Through all ups and downs, my mama stayed solid. Something a lot of people can't be in this world." She has the words framed hanging on her wall. She reads it every day. Anyone with information on the murder of Timothy Thomas Jr. is asked to call the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office at 904-630-0500. To remain anonymous and possibly be eligible for a reward, call First Coast Crime Stoppers at 866-845-8477. Oh my goodness, that's another just so sad. We have lost so many young people. So many. Okay, we'll go on over. Did I lose my place? I think I might have lost my place here. Okay, we'll go over to Marco Cluis. Hi, Spirit. Thank you for joining. I haven't saw that name before. Thank you for coming in. On June 19th, 2023, on October 23rd, Marco Cluis called his fiancee, Amina Muhammad, to let her know that he had his baby boy with him. Now, did I show his? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, I did not show his picture. I apologize, guys. It is early in the morning. Okay, let's try this again. On October 23rd, 2018, Marco Clubus called his fiancee, Amia Muhammad, to let her know that he had his baby boy with him. It was strange to Amina's hearing this because his son was usually with his mother on that day. When she asked Marco why he had the baby, he just said he wanted to spend time with them. When it come time for the baby to leave, he was crying so hard he didn't want to let Marco go. Hours later, around 12:30 a.m. on the 24th, Marco was shot to death in his home. Marco and Amina were supposed to get married 6 months later. We like to go to the movies and we like to go out to eat and have a lot of family gatherings. He was working for Nesquik as an operator and a lead. He was planning on retiring from there. Now she remembers him as a very outgoing and caring person. He volunteered on his own with different churches. He did a lot of community service, feeding the homeless. He did a lot of that. Marco was a big family man. He had two sons, Marco and Malachi. Now, it was very important to him that he raised both of his children. I don't even recall having to buy anything for our son, she said. He lived by himself with his brother, Earl Clevis, living across the street from him. Now, Earl was at home the night his brother was murdered. The neighbors are saying that his brother heard gunshots and he came outside. He must have saw something that was going on. So he got in his car and he started chasing the people that were leaving his brother's home that were shooting at his brother. Moments later, Earl's car crashed and he died from the injuries of the crash. Years later, the family is still waiting for answers. The funeral was very sad, him and his brother's funeral at the same time. Malachi, his youngest son, who was with him hours before his death, still remembers his dad, even though he was only one at that time. At nighttime, we say our prayers as always, he says, and I always pray for my dad and hope that he's in heaven. On birthdays and holidays, Amelia would go to his gravesite, taking Malachi with her. Now, Mia doesn't know if it'll ever be solved, but she continues to hope and remember that the Marco that she absolutely adored and loved. You can never say how long someone's going to grieve. People say as time goes by, you get better, but that's not always the case. You just learn how to deal with things, but it doesn't mean you've got over what's actually happened. If you have any information of the murder of Cluis, please call the Dallas Police Department at 214-671-3584. Okay, let me come over here and check chat. How are you guys doing over here? Good? Any questions? Frank, do you ever sleep? I do. I do sleep a little bit. All right. Let's see. We have Jonathan. So I have these kind of out of order. Sorry, guys. So Jonathan Carter was an outgoing, funny 15-year-old. His mother, Erica Carter, said he loved to make people laugh. And he was always talking. Sounds like you, Frank. He was also very popular with the ladies. Oh, well, that kind of didn't work, did. I'm just playing. Johnny, as he affectionately was known as the second oldest of four siblings, he was very protective of his big sister Taylor and younger brothers Hayden and Noah. Now, Johnny loved books. His favorite book of all time was Black Beauty. He also loved the movie Zombieland, and his brothers still love to watch it. One memory that still makes Erica smile is the time Johnny tricked her into taking him to see the movie Deadpool, knowing that it was inappropriate. Most of the time, you could find Johnny outside playing with his brothers. He loved being outdoors, especially when he was playing football, skateboarding, or performing some kind of tricks and flips. Erica states that some of her favorite memories were watching him skateboard at Kona State Park. He was a natural athlete, and people would stop to watch him in whatever he was doing. He also loved watching the Jacksonville Jaguars and Florida Gators play football. Now, his stepdad, Jason, recalls their mutual love of Taco Bell. He said we would stop, grab a 10-pack of tacos to split, and eat them before we went home. He would promise he would eat dinner once they got there, so mom wouldn't know, but mom always knew. Hi, Mark. Thank you for joining. On July 6, 2016, Erica received the news no parent should ever get. Johnny had been shot and killed just a short distance from their home in Jacksonville, Florida's Lakeshore neighborhood. They have struggled to recover as the family maintains their strength. As they pursue justice for Johnny, losing Johnny has impacted their whole family. Erica states his grandfather had heart failure after Jonathan's murder, and his siblings also struggle with the loss of their brother in a profound way. Instead of graduating high school, his brothers just decided to get their GED. The entire community is missing out on a great young man who was full of integrity, love, and happiness, says Erica. When asked what she would say to the person responsible for her son's death, she says, "Stop and think if this was your child. And if this was done to your family, think about how that would feel." The family continues to work with Jacksonville County Sheriff's Office to bring awareness to Johnny's case. Anyone with any information on Johnny's murder is asked to contact the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office at 904-630-0500. My goodness. Heartbreaking, heartbreaking. And there's so many of these families. Mark, what are you doing up so early? You guys just all up. I didn't figure anyone. It's 4:50 a.m. my time. What time is it for you guys? So I can drink coffee and catch a breath. Yeah, I couldn't sleep, Mark. So I actually fell asleep a little bit in PJs, and then I woke up and couldn't go back to sleep. Okay, so we have Renee. Renee McBreen was someone's mother, daughter, best friend, sister, and victim. Her son is now 32 with kids of his own. Now, her best friend lives in Nashville, and her sister works for the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, a minor league baseball team. But no one, not even for a second, forgets Renee. Her family members have the fondest memories of Renee as just an immaculate soul, glowing with positivity and always good goodwill to others. On the night of Monday, September 21st, 1992, 22-year-old Renee McBreen was at her Jacksonville home in Murray Hill neighborhood with her 3-year-old son, Caleb. They had just finished celebrating his birthday, and there were still decorations up on the wall. Someone entered that home and beat Renee to death, leaving Caleb in bed unharmed. No one has ever been arrested in connection with this crime. Renee McBreen was born on August 29th, 1970, and grew up in a close knit community of several families near Jennings State Forest in Middlesburg. As a kid, she spent most of her days walking 1 mile dirt roads between her and her best friend Dilla Miller's house, getting into adventures in nearby woods and riding the motorcycle her father had given her. Now, she loved poetry. She was considered a good writer by all the people that knew her. She was rambunctious and social and made everyone she knew feel a personal connection to her. Renee's sister Shannon Preston says Renee was a tomboy, always active and climbing trees, camping, hiking. She remembers Renee dressing up as Casper the Friendly Ghost for Halloween as a child, and the way she lit up a room with her energy because all of her magnetic personality. She was a successful waitress, a job she took so well to get enough money to raise her pride and joy, Caleb. Diana Miller, who was also Renee's roommate, said Renee did everything for Caleb. Renee even chose the house she lived in because of its proximity to a police officer, something that made her feel safe living there. She could swing Caleb on a swing, sit in the backyard, go to the park. After a long day of playing, Renee often would just scratch the back of her son's head until he fell asleep. Now, Caleb, now all grown up, holds on dearly to the few memories he has of his mom. He said he remembers the feeling of his mother's nails running up and down his back, lying his head on her legs as she would hold him. Now, he has two kids of his own and said one of the hardest days for him was his son's third birthday. The perspective of being a father allowed him into some insight to how his mom felt in her final moments. On my son's third birthday, I realized as my mom was beaten, I knew she was thinking about me and my safety. I know she was thinking about her son being 30 feet away and if I was going to be all right. The morning after Renee was killed, 3-year-old Caleb answered the phone. It was Renee's husband calling from whom she had separated. Now, he told his father he couldn't wake mommy up. Her husband then called the police, and Renee's body was soon discovered. The investigation found no forced entry. Neighbors said they heard arguing during the night of the 21st. The autopsy found that Renee had been hit with a blunt object and that she was 2 months pregnant. Now, they were not able to make any arrest in the connection to her case, nor were there any suspects made public, and it eventually went cold. Caleb ended up going into foster care after his mother's death, and he was eventually adopted to in his late teens, but he never stopped missing his mother. Renee lit up every life that she was a part of. She was such a special person. She is still dearly missed by everyone who had ever known her, and her loss is nearly 30 years ago. Renee's best friend Diana is still reeling from the loss. One thing I realized is I will never have another best friend. I get close to people only to find out that connection is never what I had with Renee. I don't think I can ever have that with another person. Anyone with any kind of information that could help the police in this investigation is urged to contact the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office at 904-630-0500. Oh my goodness, that was just heartbreaking. My good, I know, terrible. Oh no, what are you all into in chat over here? Mm-hmm. It's 6 a.m. there. Or I didn't wet the bed. Oh my goodness, Aurora, did you wet the bed? I bet Frank wet the bed and blamed Aurora. Okay, so next we're going to go on to Felicia. This is Felicia Carson. Felicia Carson, let me start over. Felicia Carson had modest plans for her little family. She had two kids that she loved so much. All she wanted to do was watch them grow up and provide for them the best way she could. She would go to her son's baseball game and she would be up in the stands just screaming and hollering, being his biggest cheerleader. She was always the loudest one. She's always so proud of him. These cheers came to a stop almost 3 decades ago when Felicia was murdered in her Clarksville, Tennessee home. Her murder has never been solved. Felicia was born on November 22nd, 1962. She had dark hair with natural red highlights. Her hair was long and always had some curls in it. She was beautiful and her smile brightened every picture she was in. As a little girl, Felicia would change her clothes 3 or 4 times a day, and she was full of spunk and energy. Felicia's aunt, Christine Fisher, remembers her as this little special child, this a very cute little girl. And Christine used to joke that Felicia was her own little child. Felicia absolutely adored her family and they loved her. Whenever we would get into a tiff, no matter how upset she was with me, she would always walk me out to the car and hug me before I would leave. She would hug me so tight and she would tell me she loved me. Now, Felicia's mother always put on wonderful family gatherings, barbecues, Christmases, Thanksgiving. They were all great times enjoyed by their family. After high school, Felicia had got married and lived in Germany for a time with her husband. Now, in Germany, the couple had their first child, Gary, and when they came back to the States, they welcomed Emily to the family. Felicia and her husband eventually separated, which was tough for her. She became a single mom with two kids to raise, and she wanted to do better. Felicia was so smart and always mathematically inclined. She enrolled in nursing school and was doing very well at it. While Felicia was in school, she was working part time taking care of plants at a business. She wanted a job that allowed her to be home for her kids when they left for school in the morning, and she would be back by the time they got home. Also, she loved gardening and working with plants, so it was a perfect match. Emily remembers life about the day that her mother was murdered. It was January 12th, 1996. Emily was just 7. It was a Friday. Emily wanted to get home before her brother so she could watch TV first. Her mother had a rule that if she did not keep her room clean, the TV would go in her brother's room. When Emily arrived at home, she remembered seeing the blood on the door. The house had dark carpet. When Emily walked in, it looked like there was mud all over it. She yelled to her mom that she was home. She got no response. Emily could tell something was off. She dropped her backpack and walked to the hallway. Now, the first door on the left was her mother's bedroom. Emily passed by the open door, glanced in each room, looking for her mom. At that point, Gary walked in the door. The phone started to ring. It was a girl who lived down the street asking if Felicia could watch her for the night. Emily told her that there was something wrong. The next thing Emily remembers is waking up to the closet with her brother and seeing more blood on the walls. That's where Emily's memories go blank. The next memory comes in the friend's kitchen speaking to officers. They informed the children that their mother had been killed. Felicia was stabbed 72 times, according to reports, and she was only 33 years old. Felicia's children were the last ones to see her. She saw them off to school that morning, that she was murdered that evening in her home. Well, after Felicia's death, the children were sent to live with their father in Michigan. This changed their life forever. Emily and Garrett were left now without their perfect mother. Their happy lives were taken away along with their moms. Now they are left with only memories of her and that fateful day. Emily is now a mother of now, Emily is now a mother on her own. When her son turned 7, she couldn't help but think to herself, at that age, at 33, Emily often thinks about how old her mother was when she was killed. I can picture her sitting on the couch reading In Style magazine and telling us to have a good day at school. Emily believes that her mother would want people to remember her as high-spirited, loving mother. She was tough, but she always knew that when people needed it, she would give it. She would give you the shirt off of her back. Anyone with any information on this case is asked to reach out to the Clarksville Police Department Special Operations Homicide Unit at 931-648-0656. Let me check chat. Yes, Mark, 72 times. And you would think, you know, surely by now there would be some kind of DNA or something, right? I mean, 72 times, you're bound to leave some kind of DNA, surely. I don't know though. I mean, if we go back to Koberger, I'm not sure, but no. And especially being a little girl like that and coming home to see that, I mean, it would almost just destroy you. I mean, I don't even know how she could even think to act. That's horrible. This is Destiny Mills. Now, this story is part of a collaborative project between Project Cold Case and a University of North Florida journalism class. Destiny Alexis Mills was 20 years old, a social butterfly with an outgoing, bubbly personality and charming wit. But on Tuesday, March 24th, 2015, Destiny was shot in the chest at the Albright Apartments in Trotwood, Ohio. Her murder has never been solved. Destiny was born on Monday, December 19th, 1994, and she grew up in Dayton, Ohio. She loved going to the beach and water parks with her cousin Danielle Jones. Destiny loved heights but was also afraid of them. She always tried to get me to go anytime I would always tell her no, I'd pass. But as a teenager, Destiny attended Northridge High and Wayne High in Ohio. She made the most of her time in school, making good grades to get on the honor roll and making lots and lots of friends. Now, she was the center of attention and had the ability to make anyone feel good about themselves. She was a sportaholic. Destiny was a competitive child growing up. She first discovered the game of soccer at age 3 and would play it most of her life. Of the 5 children, Destiny was the one that wanted to participate in every activity. She kept me very busy, her mother says. Destiny was on the winning soccer team every year. She worked hard and she loved the sport and the event. She always dreamed of college, playing soccer in college, at the University of Dayton. Destiny's high school coach would often take her to watch the Flyers matches. I miss those moments so much, her mom recalls. The memory I have of those are the best. Destiny didn't leave her competitive nature at the soccer pitch. She also ran track and was on the dance team and was even a cheerleader. There was nothing she wouldn't try, her mother said. Today, the trophies, ribbons, awards, everything that Destiny had earned during her athletic career are still on display in Linda's home. When she wasn't playing sports, Destiny was fascinated with fashion. Now, she was unique in what she wore, and she could take any kind of clothing and turn it into a fashion creation. Linda's, this is all coming from her mother, Linda. Destiny wanted to study fashion design in school and one day produce her own clothing line. She planned on taking classes at Wright State University in Dayton in hopes to reach that dream. She would write songs. She would do absolutely everything. On March 24th, 2015, Destiny and her boyfriend were hosting a party at their apartment. Visitors came and went throughout the day, but at some point during that night, someone approached that door and opened fire. Destiny was struck in the chest. Around 1 o'clock in the morning, Linda discovered a strange message. Destiny's boyfriend messaged me on Facebook saying that Destiny had been shot. Frantic, she immediately tried locating her daughter but couldn't. Finally, she learned that Destiny was at the hospital, but it was too late. By the time Linda had arrived, Destiny had died. I was numb, she says, recalling the moment that she saw her daughter's lifeless body in that emergency room. Danielle recalls standing in shock after learning that Destiny had been killed. I kind of remember losing it for a second. I punched a wall. I just dropped, she said. I remember showing up at my mom's house and it's kind of blank in between. Destiny's death changed her family forever. I don't even celebrate Christmas anymore, says her mother. On the anniversary of her death on December 19th, Destiny's birthday, the family does come together and they remember her by sending off balloons. The family wants justice for Destiny, but we've always thought, when are we going to get justice? Are we ever getting justice? If Destiny were here today, her family thinks she would have kids. She always wanted kids. She always said specifically she wanted boys. The time since Destiny's death has been difficult on everyone who's known her. Destiny's friends continue to post on social media about her to this day. but more lives have unfortunately been lost in that area. There has been so many lives lost since her death. Now, these are all people that Destiny knew from school or around the neighborhood. The loss of life has become the norm here, and Linda doesn't want any of these other memories to be forgotten. As the years have passed, people tend to move on and forget about loved ones. Linda continues to keep Destiny's Facebook profile alive, posting from time to time. I just want everyone to know that she did exist. If you have any information on the unsolved murder of Destiny Mills, please call the Trotwood Police Department at 937-854-7200. Oh my goodness. Some of these are just absolutely horrible. Terrible, terrible. All right, guys. So I've been on for 41 minutes, and I know nobody wants to watch anything longer than an hour. So I will let you guys go. But I want to thank you guys for joining me. I didn't expect anyone to show up in chat, but I do appreciate each and every one of you. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. God bless. Talk to you later. Bye bye.
Hearts that hurt, they find a friend. In every truth we help defend. For the bullied, for the gone, we'll keep their legacy strong.